everyone, I'm Adele Kenny, and I'm very happy to share some poems from my most recent book, Wind Over Stones, with you. Wind Over Stones is a collection of ekphrastic prose poems. Ekphrastic poems are written in response to other artworks. In the case of these poems, all were written in response to paintings by a wide range of artists. Prose poetry is a unique and special form of poetry that gives the approximation of prose. In other words, it looks like it's written in paragraph form, but in reality, it takes on the appearance of prose, but is actually a kind of poetry that employs all the techniques and devices and strategies that lineated poems employ. I've written almost exclusively prose poems for the last several years now, and it's very special to me. They look like prose, but they're pure poetry. Wind Over Stones continues the spiritual narrative that I began in the two books that preceded it, What Matters and A Lightness, a Thirst, or Nothing at All. A unique feature of this book is the inclusion of QR codes. QR codes are little boxes that appear on each page of the book, and if you download a free, and I emphasize free, QR code reader, you can use any handheld device, a cell phone, a tablet, whatever you prefer. Hold it over the little QR code on the page, and you'll be able to view the painting that inspired the poem. Sadly, Wind Over Stones was published shortly before the pandemic hit, and as a result, there were no launches or readings or any of the typical happy events that occur when a new book is published. Promotion and sales were stalled even before they began, so in a sense, this is the book's debut, and I'm so happy to be able to share that with you. Before I read, I'd like to send a big thank you to Diane Lockwood for all that she does for poets and poetry, for organizing this reading, and for inviting me to be part of it. I'm going to begin with a poem that addresses the idea of being alone, which is an important part of the spiritual journey. The poem is called So Here You Are, and it's based on the painting Spring by Georgia O'Keeffe. So here you are, by yourself because that's what you choose. Whether it's evening or late afternoon, more dark, more light, doesn't matter. The need to measure things becomes less and less important. Lately, you think how life rushes through everything. Unsettled dreams, and things that will never happen again. In a week or two, the lilacs will bloom. Dogwoods will float like watered silk. It's ironic that all your seasons have led to reverence for things that move slowly. How you, like anything ordinary, changed without breaking. A dog barks on the street behind you, the sound distantly familiar. Language, landscape. In one of the trees, a small bird sings. This one bird's one song only for you, because you are alone. And you hear it the way you can almost hear the time between each breath. The second poem is called Shooting Stars. It's based on a painting titled Tintagel on the Cornish Coast by W.T. Richards. Tintagel is a magical, mystical place. I've been to it a number of times on the southwestern coast of England. And the castle there, which is now in ruins, is the legendary place where King Arthur was born. Shooting stars. High on the headland, castle ruins sink into shadow. Some say Arthur was born here. Mystery and myth, a romantic notion that may or may not be real. At low tide, Merlin's cave opens below. Far above, a kestrel rests on an updraft, then lowers itself in stages. The horizon loses shape. It is August and night, darkness shot through with unfastened light. The wind picks up and becomes weightless. Even these stones are made of air. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. More than moment, more than idea. A cobweb brushes against my cheek. How little we know of our own smallness, of rock and dust. How little we know of ghosts and stars. I think most of us spend large portions of our lives trying to live up to other people's expectations of us. It may be a good thing in a way, but in another way, how much do we really need to care what other people think of us? This poem is based on the painting The Great Pine by Paul Cézanne. It's called Good Enough. This one prefers her heroes flawed, imperfect but tough, the right mix of metal and bread. 1 part hero, 3 parts imagination. Always a bouquet of pine needles in his pocket, no surprises. A rainy autumn brings us home to half branches, another season without a map. The rain was already rain before we got here. No one stays. Wherever we're going, and we know this isn't it, there's not much point in perfection. Nothing is ever exactly what we think. Wherever we are, the pines stay peaceful, despite what the wind shakes loose. No thoughts, yours or mine, to disturb them. With evening coming on, shadows keep to themselves. The whole life of everything is all around us. I know we intended to do better, but it just might be that we got it right after all, that what we've done is good enough. And I'm going to close with the title poem from the collection, based on The Rocks by Vincent van Gogh, which is also the cover illustration for the book. This has been a statement of faith for me. It's written in 4 parts, like wind over stones. That night, I didn't look for answers or reasons. At the forest's edge, a bird rose over trees, then held the high places with wings, the way a soul reclaims its shape, awareness without thought. This morning began as a shifting distance. Darkness stretched thin, and peonies, from somewhere the scent of peonies. Later, I waited while traffic stilled for a funeral, a desolate procession, corner to corner, the short space between time and eternity. I thought for a moment how we are chalk lost from a sidewalk. And I thought how even death doesn't last. Nothing is lost in this illogical trust we call faith. Some things are easily remembered, resonant, indelible. Others, more fragile but equally blessed, are best understood by their loss. We have let ourselves be known slowly, beginning, being. So many years from where we were, we have spoken the word, open. Fragment to whole, life is a skyward thing. It moves over us like wind over stones until we shine. And when we are ghosts, gone into what we believe, it will be more than the end of breathing, the end of water, the end of sky. As straightforward as this, flickers of air that rise up and leave as light. Thank you all for listening. I wish each of you safety, good health, and by the grace of God, an end to this terrible pandemic. Hopefully, when our lives re-inflate, we will meet again somewhere in poetry land and be able to share the special dynamic of a live poetry reading. I'd love it if you'd consider purchasing a copy of Wind Over Stones. It's available on Amazon. Thank you all.